Every year on Labor Day weekend, the NASCAR world affixes its attention on Darlington Speedway in Darlington, South Carolina for the Southern 500. Considered one of the, quote, crown jewel races of NASCAR, the Darlington race is considered America's oldest super speedway race and has been hosting NASCAR events since 1950. A win at Darlington is coveted by many drivers, however difficult to achieve, as the track's asymmetrical oval shape and unforgiving asphalt type can spell lots of trouble for cars. For this prestigious and historical race, NASCAR teams have recently started painting throwback paint schemes onto their cars to pay homage to NASCAR and Darlington's history. The creative talent of the livery artist can be easily seen on display this weekend, and many teams and sponsors take an added step for their special paint jobs to mean something more. Hey, what's going on? This is Random Things Review, and today I'm taking you through my 8 favorite NASCAR throwback paint jobs for the Southern 500. Now, just a reminder, this tradition is only a few years old, which is why you'll mostly see modern stock car builds on this list. Alright, let's get into the list. Starting off the list at number 8, we have Landon Cassill's Loves car. Gotta love a little brand nostalgia. Cassill's sponsor, the iconic travel stop Loves, decided to pay homage to their history with this paint scheme. This paint job represents the first Loves location opened in 1981 in Amarillo, Texas. The design of the fuel canopies and the building facade at this first location is replicated in this paint scheme. Doesn't this paint scheme just scream 1980s? It does for me, and not necessarily in a negative way. When I look at this paint job, I feel warm, at home, and welcome, which are the principles that made Loves such a successful travel stop. Racing out of the 80s and into my heart, this is my number 8. At number 7 on my list, I have Brad Keselowski's 2016 Miller Lite paint scheme. Now, this car was run in the 2016 Southern 500. The Miller type on the sides of the car are reminiscent of Miller bottles from pre-1970, as well as the phrase, "a fine Pilsner beer," featured on the car used to be below that main prominent logo on cans and bottles, so a homage to history right there. I really like this car because it takes the concept of modeling a car after a product so much further. The font, the logo, the classic powder blue paying homage to early day Miller Lite racing, the designers really offered their best here. Keselowski and the Miller Lite team usually has something cooking for every year when it's throwback weekend, so keep an eye peeled for this season. This wonderful blue car is my number 7. Next up on the list, we have Joey Logano's 2018 Pennzoil design. Now, Logano's paint scheme is actually homage to another driver. His paint scheme resembles the number 1 Chevy that driver Steve Park drove for Dale Earnhardt Racing starting in 1998. He was able to lead the car to 2 Cup victories in 2000 and 2001. Logano brings back the telltale Bumblebee-esque striping and the red-colored number in the center. I personally like this car because I believe it is a healthy mix of vintage and modern sleek. I am not the biggest fan of the color yellow, but I think that in this sense the designers were able to pull off the yellow and black striping effectively. Also, the way the stripes wrap around the body, it seems to make the car more angular, more meaner, which makes it that much more fun to look at. Also, having a staple automotive brand like Pennzoil sponsoring the car just makes it feel right in a throwback race. Homage was truly paid with this one. One more cool note, Joey Logano pointed this out in an interview about this car, is that he and Steve Park both share the claim of being from New England, so Logano said it was cool to drive one car from a New England legend to another. Number 5 on my list has a bit of Hollywood flair attached to it. This spot is occupied by Cody Ware and the Rick Ware Racing number 51 Chevrolet. If you are a racing movie fan and these colors look familiar to you, that is because this livery was designed off of fictional driver Cole Trickle's mellow yellow Chevy in the 1990 hit movie Days of Thunder. I remember watching this movie as a kid, seeing Tom Cruise rip around the track, and having that high-octane thriller be one of the reasons I fell in love with NASCAR. Being able to see the retro green and yellow detailing out on a real NASCAR track is surreal to me. This car's design also bears a special meaning. When this car was run in the 2017 Southern 500, the race was only a few weeks after Hurricane Harvey decimated the Houston, Texas area. The Ware family had strong ties to the Houston, Texas area and decided to pay respect to the hurricane-stricken city by including the Pray for Texas logo and slogan on the hood and sides of the car, as well as information about how to donate to Hurricane Harvey relief on the back bumper. A great livery with a cause that extends beyond sports, this paint job definitely belongs on this list. My number 4 favorite car is Austin Dillon's 2018 Richard Childress Racing No. 3 Chevrolet. Another car modeled off of a former NASCAR driver, this car surprised everyone when it was unveiled on a Facebook Live event just a few weeks before the race. The iconic 3 car took its inspiration from NASCAR Hall of Famer Dale Earnhardt's Silver Secret paint scheme, which was ironically announced to NASCAR fans in the same last-minute secretive fashion. A departure from Earnhardt's trademark black No. 3 car, this car was repainted for the 1995 All-Star race and caught the eyes of many spectators. Over 20 years later, Austin Dillon and the team were able to construct the same reaction. What I think is really cool is how the current car's sponsor is different, but they were able to tailor the font, style, color, and placement of the logo to echo the 1995 Goodwrench edition. I think it's brilliant design planning and a paint scheme older NASCAR generations must love. On top of that, the simplicity of the car decals somehow just make it seem faster and more rugged. I'm a big fan of this layout. Heading onto the podium here, my number 3 favorite NASCAR throwback scheme is Kevin Harvick's Busch car with Stewart-Haas Racing in 2016. I like the design of this car every year, but 2016's was cool as it paid homage to NASCAR legend and Hall of Famer Cale Yarborough's 1979 Busch-sponsored Oldsmobile. As you can see, the gold numbering, Busch Mountains on the front, and navy and white color lining on Harvick's car match beautifully with this classic machine. Fun fact, before the race, Busch teased Kevin Harvick's throwback paint scheme by airing Busch's famous 1980s commercials that were titled Head for the Mountains. Busch was always great at marketing in this scheme. This car gives off the feeling of crisp and cool when I look at it, with its mountain scheme and dark navy detailing, which I guess the beer company was going for if that's their detail. On top of that, I think the simplistic writing of the word Busch on the side, as well as the gold number 4, make this one of the most distinguishable vintage schemes on the track, and certainly one of my favorites. As is common with many other cars on this list, my number 2 car also pays homage to a legend. This is Will Byron's 24 Chevrolet with Hendrick Motorsports. Probably one of the most recognizable cars and numbers on this list, Will Byron paid homage to the legendary Jeff Gordon in the 24 with this design titled Hot Summer Nights. Legendary NASCAR designer Sam Bass had a hand in designing this scheme. The story goes that when Jeff Gordon was a rookie, he had to get a brightly colored rainbow car so that he could be distinguished on the track so people could stay away from him. I love this design because it's one of my first childhood memories, watching the Rainbow 24 zip around the track. No other car had quite that level of color action and recognizability. A classy way to pay homage to a legend, Jeff Gordon actually worked with Will Byron and the design team to try and replicate the car perfectly with today's sponsors and car designs, all while keeping the car looking sleek and beautiful. NASCAR fans of all ages love this design, and I am no stranger. And drumroll please for my number 1 favorite throwback scheme at this Darlington race. It has to be Clint Bowyer's number 14 with Stewart-Haas Racing. This lighter blue throwback scheme was meant to honor NASCAR Hall of Famer Ned Jarrett. As you can see, the design mimics Jarrett's 1965 Ford Galaxy scheme, which his car was painted in during the 1965 running of the Southern 500. Now, this race went down in NASCAR history because Jarrett won the race by a whole 14 laps. Such domination was never before seen in NASCAR. Aside from the historical homage paid, I really like this paint scheme because of the engine stats written on the hood on both sides, a common practice of stock cars back then, as well as the owner's name. It makes me feel like I'm watching a history documentary when looking at this car's scheme. With that, the number 14 having quote-unquote speed lines makes for a really cool touch. Also, the Carolina Ford dealership sponsor on the side, written in old type, is a perfect bring together for a paint scheme teleported straight from history. Well, thank you for taking the time to watch the video. I certainly had a lot of fun making it. What are some of your favorite NASCAR schemes or NASCAR memories? Please leave them in the comments below. Click the links on the screen to get more content, and make sure to subscribe to get more random thing reviews. Thank you very much and have a fantastic day. Bye.